Well, welcome to Exhaust Sports Auto. You are here to witness the 2020 Kia Telluride review. If you haven't already, I actually already did a first impressions review. So when I first got the vehicle, kind of recorded my first drive in the vehicle. So if you want to see that, I'll leave a link up to that above. This is going to be more of a one-on-one kind of me and you time here, kind of discussing what the Telluride is like after a few days. You know, I would suggest to hold off on the subscriptions and all that, because I would like you to watch this entire review and see if I added any value to your life. Then you can subscribe and potentially become a Patreon member. I don't know, but that's not really required of you. Let's just get right into this. The Telluride was a vehicle that I was really looking forward to for some time when the press event happened for it, which I did not go to, but I absolutely was so intrigued with it because I said this is my first impressions. The Kia Sorento was one of my most favorite Kias that I've ever driven in my entire life. It just had an incredible chassis, body control, all that good stuff. But with this, let's first of all start off with the looks, because it's something that a lot of people like to talk about. Yeah, this is pretty much hands down, no arguments. This is the best looking SUV pretty much out there. The absolute prestige and posture of this is next level. I love it. This is a Kia, and I feel more baller and more boss in this than I do in some German cars. Like some of these German SUVs I see on the road, especially like, you know, the more base ones, because that's all people can afford, they look terrible, honestly. They have no real presence, but this SX all-wheel drive with the 20-inch black dubs on it looks absolutely spectacular. And I just, you know, when I first got this vehicle, dude, I was so activated. I felt like an utter boss. I had the windows down, rap music blasting out the speakers. I mean, I was just so activated in this thing, and you get so much attention driving this thing too. Like a lot of people actually genuinely look at this almost like the Kia Stinger, honestly. Like when I see this thing out on the road, it's like pointing out like an exotic vehicle. Like I get, like people just gawk at it, you know what I mean? So it's a very cool vehicle, and Kia Stinger right there, nice. The amber running lights that this thing has, the rear tail lights, the intricate shapes. You know, some idiots were saying like, you know, this was a copy of like a Tahoe or something like that. It just pisses me off because every SUV is a rectangle. What do you expect? That's like saying the Rolls-Royce Cullinan copied a Tahoe because they both look like rectangles. It's absolutely preposterous things that I keep hearing, but this is a complete original design that's very unique to Kia. This is zero copycatting here. This is a fantastic design by their part, but enough of the design. You can decide for yourself. And there's obviously a Hyundai Palisade, which I have not driven, that, you know, you have both these cars, pretty much identical vehicles, and you can decide which one you like the most. But onto this driving segment. So this is the SX all-wheel drive, fully loaded, basically, like I mentioned. It's stickers for like $43,000. What sucks is that some dealerships are actually marking up the prices of these things like it's a C8 Corvette or something like that. So that kind of pisses me off, but I'm sure that'll kind of die down eventually, but the demand is there. But honestly, I've already mentioned this kind of in the first impressions that I did. This drives like perfection, honestly. Like this drives like any other typical luxury sedan or SUV that you could think of. And honestly, I said that it rides great. I said that it's smooth, it's comfortable, it's easy to drive, relatively decent power, which I'll get to in a bit. But this actually pulls off something similar to what the Genesis G80 did for me. It is such a relaxing driving experience. You do not feel stressed at all. That's kind of how I feel. No, but what I just did there, you almost never want to do in this vehicle, because this car kind of promotes casual driving, if you will. I'm never, like that G80, when I was driving it, I felt like my blood pressure dropped like 20 points. You just feel so relaxed. You ignore the idiots on the road. You kind of just go at your own pace, and I love it. Like just driving at the speed limit, it is so relaxing and sublime, and this Kia Telluride captures a lot of that. Basically, in essence, it's like a luxury vehicle. Basically, it is a luxury car. And you know, the Genesis G80, till this day, is one of my most favorite cars ever. It's one of the greatest creations out of Korea. So, high props to that vehicle. So the fact that this Telluride captures a lot of that, I really appreciate. This thing is riding on 20-inch rims, as I already mentioned. The standard rims are 18 inches, so obviously it can ride even better in this, but this is the trim that I would want. I was so lucky in getting this dark, like, what is it, like dark moss color, this like forest green color. Love it with the black wheels. This is exactly how I wanted this vehicle, and I got it, so I'm so happy about that. But now I'll kind of address that power a little bit. So it's got that 3.8 liter V6, 291 horsepower and 262 pounds-feet of torque. The numbers are not great, but like I was mentioning before, it promotes a very casual driving experience. You don't always have to floor it, even though I have been. You just drive it normal. That engine is more than fine for what this vehicle is trying to accomplish, basically. Because a lot of people complain that this isn't fast. It's, you know, they want more. They want twin turbos. They want tri-turbos. They want quad turbos, V8s, V12s. It's not going to happen, and you don't need it, because this is fantastic for what this vehicle is basically capable of. And you do get up to speed. If you put your foot all the way down, you get the most out of this motor. But it's a smooth engine. It sounds pretty good. This is not the Genesis G80 V6. This is actually like apparently an enlarged version of the 3.3 liter in the Kia Sedona. So that's something to note, I guess. This overall vehicle weighs about 4,354 pounds, so it's a pretty, heavy thing. I think the Genesis G80 I owned was like it's about 4,300 pounds, but that 3.8 produced more power, like 311 horsepower, and I forgot how many torques it made, but more than this, and that was great. That car moved just fine. This could benefit a little bit more. I wish they would just take that engine and just put it in here, give it a little extra horsepower, but whatever, they didn't do it and it doesn't matter. I also love the steering. The steering response in this is superb. Yeah, there's body roll, but I mean, everything has body roll, so I don't really care. The steering in this, every single Kia has perfect steering. So it is electric steering and it is perfection. The weight of it, how it feels. There are different drive modes: comfort, sport, and smart. I actually really like the smart mode. It gives you the balls you need when you need it. And it saves the fuel when you're not on the gas. So it's a really smart system. It's made it to this 8-speed transmission. Another thing that Kia absolutely nails, the transmissions. This is an in-house built 8-speed. Kia killed it with the IVT CVT thing, and their 8-speed that they use in this Kia Stinger, love it. So natural, so predictable, has a great feel to it. Kicks down pretty well. There's a slight hesitation, but it is so appropriate for a vehicle like this. The brakes is another thing I want to mention. Basically, every aspect of driving this thing is absolute perfection. The brakes have an excellent feel to them. They stop so well for what this is. You have so much confidence driving this, and it's not just this. Every single Kia has an incredible confidence when you're behind the wheel of it, that I don't know what is the matter with these Kia haters, because honestly, not only are they like one of the cheaper options, but they're also one of the most enjoyable to drive, and the handling of this is really pretty excellent. I don't think a lot of people mention this in the reviews that I watch, at least, but this thing handles for what it is so crazy. Like, I was just chucking this thing into turns like a madman, dude, and it handled everything so well. This thing is fitted with some really high quality Michelin privacy touring tires, 245 all around squared off, 20-inch rims, like I said, and this thing grips so good. You have to like go nuts, so like I just did, to get this thing to like chirp its tires. So hey, handling, driving it, you are going to love this thing. I can't say enough good things about the way this thing rides. This has now become basically my new favorite Kia, basically in the lineup. I would actually take this over a Kia Stinger, honestly. I actually enjoy driving this so freaking much, and I think most people who get into this thing are kind of going to share my opinion. Now, I'll touch on a few other things before I end this review off. I had this thing on the highway. Again, the theme of confidence continues. There was just so much stability driving this thing, and well, he's going to a better place. Sorry, children. the stability at high speeds, like 70 plus miles per hour, profound. I mean, it is far better than a lot of the Toyotas I've been in, equally as good as the Lexus cars, honestly. And yeah, there's a bit of wind noise, there's a bit of tire noise, but you know, for the price point for what this is, I mean, you can forgive it. Everything has tire noise and road noise, just like every other luxury car does too. So when I had the Lexus UX, I couldn't wait to get out of that thing. And when I got into this, I just don't want to give this thing up. So that says a lot right there. And this thing is obviously outfitted with every single safety option imaginable. I mean, you just feel safe driving this because it's so substantial. But another thing is, this thing is so easy to drive. Much like the Kia Sorento, in massive size, it's like, it feels half of what it is. It's just so damn good to drive. Like, you whip it, you have no issues driving this thing in and out of traffic. It's just so easy to drive and keep in its lane. I mean, it never jumps around, hops around. It's always so stable, like I mentioned multiple times, and it just makes it for a fantastic daily vehicle. Like, you have so much space. I'm going to get into a lot of that stuff. And like I was mentioning with the safety features, it has everything in it, and particularly this is the fully loaded model, so it better have all that stuff. You know, it's got that lane keep, which works perfectly in every single Kia, and in this particular model, it just drives itself. You don't even have to keep your hands on the wheel if you don't want to for like a very long time till it warns you. So it's got everything you need, man. It's impossible to crash. It drives perfect. I mean, I can't really say much more good things about it. Is this vehicle perfect? Absolutely not, because I'm going to tell you the things that are not perfect with it very, very soon. There's some things that actually really piss me off about the interior of this vehicle. So let's look into that. I mean, it's like one or two things. It's really nothing like, you know, it's not gonna like prevent you from buying the car or anything, so don't worry about that. I think I've said enough about the drive. It drives perfect. So let's get into that interior, the trunk segment, and end this review off. Okay, so you join me inside of the 2020 Kia Telluride. So what we have here is a luxury car interior. There's no questions or doubt about that, that's for sure. When you look at it, the wood trimmings, all that, this is not like that Genesis, at least the G80 I had. It's actually like a matte textured wood. Looks real. I think it's actually real. And it's just got, every Kia has a fantastic layout, just practically and also just aesthetically, and for practicality, they actually have, Kia Hyundai have better ergonomics than Toyota Lexus does nowadays, I think. That's just how good it is. There's actually a bunch of physical controls that you commonly use, as well as a fully separated climate control function here. So that's fantastic. Love to see that. And because it's the SX, with every single option loaded to the brim, you have heated, cooled seats for not only these front two seats, but also in the captain's chair in the back, which I'll talk about in a bit. But you also have your heated steering wheel button here as well. That's fantastic. Now, before I continue, you know, I have to name the faults, because, or else people are going to start, some douchebags will think that I'm like paid or sponsored by Kia or something like that, because it drove perfect, fantastic interior layout. I'll tell you what the problems are. Well, here's a problem that I know most journalists will mention. Oh, look, some plastic on the sides here. You know, just the dumbest thing. Like, you're gonna get like a rash out of this or something like that. Like people are gonna be having intercourse inside of the door pockets here. It's just stupid stuff that people like to mention. You could put 2 bricks here for my knees to rest on, and I still wouldn't complain about that. I don't care about little petty things like that. But I will say, like, this little brown plastic here, it does look a little bit cheaper, like not as quality looking as the rest of the materials. You know, I will say that, but you know, again, nothing that's gonna like affect your daily use of this vehicle, that's for sure. But a personal big complaint of mine, you know, fantastic material choices, color choices. Where they destroyed it was with this piano black plastic like center thing here with the steering. I mean, it's just so dumb. It's full. I don't know why car manufacturers continue to subject their customers to this nonsense, but they do. Mazda does this. It's like a full brick of piano black plastic, and it just makes no sense. It's already scratched up and all that stuff. And you know, I'll mention this. You know, this thing in the middle, it doesn't open properly, and I kind of know why. It's because these angry, stupid journalists that get their hands on these vehicles, they have like this attitude problem. They have like these temper tantrums like a small child. They always they have like this stupid destructive nature to them. They just, you know, violently close and try to purposefully break these things. And in the review, they're like, oh, it's not like necessary, or it's broken, or whatever. It's not broken. It's just that, just, you know, stop screwing with the stuff. You know what I mean? And, you know, people like to do this. I will never do these tests ever again because, yeah, parts flex and stuff when you apply, like, you know, 60 pounds of force to them. Yeah, these interior trims will start to flex like it does in a Mercedes, like it does in an Audi, like it does in a BMW, like it does in a Rolls Royce. You're not supposed to go around, like, you know, pressing and touching up on it. Nobody ever will. And moving forward, I'm never going to even test that out because every car flexes and shakes a little bit when you start to, you know, apply a ton of pressure onto these fragile, you know, parts, you know what I mean? So I don't care about that. But my absolute biggest complaint about this interior is going to be in the trunk segment, so I'll get to that in a bit. But as far as everything else, positives, of course. These seats, beyond supple and supportive. Like these, see, this is the upgraded like Napa seat textures basically, and they are just so damn comfortable, like it is in pretty much every luxury car. These seats are just fantastic to just sit in it. These seats never make your rides fatiguing. They are always supportive, they're always soft, and you don't have to break into them or anything like that. They're just naturally soft and supple like that. With the ride quality of this and with these seats, you can do like 1 trillion miles in this thing without any faults or issues. Another thing I want to mention is that getting in and out of this thing, relatively easy. It's, you know, a subscriber of mine, actually a Patreon member, actually I only have one Patreon member, and he was mentioning that, you know, is the Kia Telluride really that big? He didn't really think it was that big seeing it, and he's kind of right. It's really not like ridiculously huge in here, you know, and I thought it would be because, you know, there's space in the third row for actual adults and stuff like that. So I thought this thing would be gargantuan, but it's not. It's a totally manageable package. The overall length of it is only like 197 inches long, which is about the same size as like a, you know, Genesis G80, like those mid-size 5 Series E-Class type of cars. So really not insane, and that's kind of why it's so easy to drive this thing, I feel like, because you know, blind spots are pretty much non-existent. I mean, the mirrors do a fantastic job. You're never really stressed out or intimidated driving this, you know, large vehicle. And I'll get to the other seats in a bit, but other things I really like are the mirrors that fold in and out when you lock and unlock the vehicle. It's a fantastic feature. All the window switches are actually one touch, up and down. Again, excellent, love that. And these controls actually fall right on your hand, which I absolutely love. The steering wheel is extremely soft and nice leather wrapped. It is kind of like this 4-spoke thing going on. I think the Palisade has like a 3-spoke design. I don't really care because I'm usually grabbing that hoe from the top, so it's not really like a huge deal to me. Gauges, classic Hyundai Kia, nothing really to report there. The screen is superb, 10.25 inches, identical to the Kia Soul, the 2020 Soul Turbo, that is, and extremely high quality screen, so easy to use. And I'll link my 2020 Kia Soul review up top so you can kind of see more of that. It's exactly the exact same stuff going on, so it's pretty like responsive, not a huge deal. The actual, like, you know, screen itself is extremely responsive for the most part, and it's got, you know, there's so much to play around with this thing. But the key thing I wanted to mention with this interior is that Harman Kardon optional sound system. Dude, it is ridiculous. That 630 watt unit, dude, this thing is bumping in here, dude. Every Tatiana remix, everything sounds phenomenal in here. Like, I have the bass cranked all the way up and I cranked the volume all the way up. Dude, this thing, it doesn't rattle or shake, nothing like that. It's just insane bass, extremely clear. Love it. It's actually even better than the Kia Stinger's like 750 watt or 900 watt, whatever it was. This is actually better than that. Really fantastic sound system. I think it's only like a 10 speaker, but it's incredible sounding. And I'll kind of bring you guys a little bit closer here to show you everything I'm talking about. I will mention this thing here. So only the all-wheel drive variants of the Kia Telluride will get the snow mode and the eco mode with the center like locking diff basically. So this is actually relatively off-road capable. It's kind of like an on-demand system, you know, typical of, you know, most all-wheel drive systems. Usually if you're in the sport mode, anything beyond comfort mode, it's usually sending about 35% of the power to the rear wheels, which is pretty cool. And if you put it in the snow modes or anything like that, then it'll send up to like 50% of the power to the rear. So something to note there. One thing I would like to note though, you know, it does have an electric parking brake. I wish when you engage it, disengage it, I wish it would just like do it automatically. You know what I mean? Like when you put the vehicle in park, I wish that it would just engage it automatically, and when you put it into drive, it'll automatically disengage like most luxury cars do. If you're gonna do this, I wish they would just implement that. Your auto stop start, which if you have this turned off, it will not remember it and it will not leave it off basically. You have your various views for your cameras, which I'll go through in a bit, but unlike the auto stop start function, the whatever mode you put the vehicle in, like if you like smart mode and you leave it in smart mode and you turn the car off, when you turn it back on again, it will actually be in smart mode. So that's very, very nice. And this is like the center gauge cluster, like I mentioned to you before. Shows you a lot of cool things. It actually shows you like which tire is kind of getting all the power. So very cool stuff. You can kind of look at that yourself. And like I said, chock full of safety features, and you have physical controls for a lot of that stuff. So your mirrors that fold in and out when you lock and unlock the vehicle. Here's your controls, which fall nicely onto your hand. So I do like that. And before we get into the rear seats, there's a ton of little cubby spaces. And right here in the front, actually, there's a wireless charger, which, you know, every Kia pretty much has it, like the new ones from the Forte to the Soul. Very slow like it is in those vehicles as well. Most of these wireless chargers kind of a gimmick, but it's a nice place to store your phone. It'll get some juice, so not too bad. The spot where you can plug in to access your Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. A ton of space inside here, which I really, really like. Similar to like a pickup truck almost, which is great. And you got some space in here as well. Forget that. And great amount of space for any amount of drinks. You got a nice spot for a fairly large bottle there as well, and some door pocket spaces. This is kind of where people have a lot of complaint about, because obviously everybody's having intercourse in there. So that pretty much covers everything. I will just touch on, you know, I keep saying this, but there's a lot to talk about with this vehicle. I'm kind of trying to limit it to what matters to most humans, and that is what I'm trying to do. Gas mileage is the last thing I want to talk about. Not so stellar with this vehicle. Obviously, I drive like an animal, foot to the floor always. But this thing, you know, I was getting as low as 15 to 16 mpg. Usually, I'm under 20 mpg with this thing. Most people who are thinking about buying this, you'll probably see in the 20, 21 maybe. But me, if you like to get anywhere, if you like to not hold up traffic, you're probably going to be getting under 20 mpg. So something to note there. Now, kind of had enough talking about this. Yeah, it's a pretty perfect interior space for the most part, and you have a lot of cool features. But I think it's about time I talk about the rear seat, so let's get into that. Okay, climbing inside of the 2020 Kia Telluride. So, like I was mentioning, this thing isn't like massive. Like I don't have like Maybach levels of rear legroom here, but the seat is pretty much set, actually even a little bit further back than my seat setting. So very nice. I have more than enough space, really, like a practical amount of space, especially for a 5'11" adult like myself. Plenty of actually like foot room underneath the seat, which I always love to see, and headroom, of course, not an issue. And this vehicle is fitted with like a dual sunroof thing, so that's actually nice. You do have your own climate control here, which I'll show you in a bit, but you can't actually control the rear sunroof from back here. You actually have to, like, you know, all the sunroof controls are actually in the front. As far as space in here, man, that should not be an issue. And this is the SX, kind of like the top of the line luxury model, so you don't get a bench seat here, so it's only room for two people in the back here because they're both like captain's chairs basically. And you do have your own little like armrest things here. You know, it's a baller pimp, you know, spec basically. So it does make it easy to get an access into the third row basically, because you have like the space to kind of like, you know, walk through. But you can also put these seats down electronically and kind of like move it out of the way if you want to get into the rear space that way. But, you know, again, door panel has that big baller Harman Kardon speaker here, as well as your heated and ventilated seat controls here as well with your one-touch windows. Peasant blockers, always great to see. Nice for your children, your babies. You know, if you're gonna have a few babies back here, they kind of block out some of that sunlight, which is good. You actually have USB ports, which I just noticed on the seat here. So your spoiled brats can, you know, charge up their iPhones or whatever. So you got that there as well with some door pockets and some cup holders and some more, you know, AC volts and stuff like that. You actually have, you can plug a whole like toaster back here. Actually, you got one of those house volts back here. So you have that, and I'll show you the rest. So there you go. Kind of just do one of those and you can access it that way, and you have like a manual control down there to like push the seat back. So if you want to recline back, you can do that. You have these two electric buttons to kind of fold it down, as well as like this physical one as well. So those are kind of like all the ways you can put this seat down. It's kind of that center space I was talking to you about. You can kind of climb in there. I'm gonna test out those rear seats in a bit, and I do actually fit in there. You got your cup holders, and these are your things I was talking to you about. There you can charge up a toaster with that, and your door pocket, and here are your door panels. Basically still got the nice wood, heated and cooled seats, and Harman Kardon with the door pocket. So very nice. And here's your peasant blocker, which never really stays on for me. So with that, let's go ahead and let's take a look at that rear seat, shall we? Okay, not too difficult. So as you can see, I fit back here. No real issues, actually. I can actually do a legit journey like this. I can probably stay here for at least 45 minutes, to be honest. If not more. You got your nice little window so you don't feel claustrophobic. You know, no like wood trims or any of that nonsense back here. But you do have a USB, drinks, and a bit of storage. And you can actually put these headrests up and down, because if you're not using this, you can use this as like, you know, extra bit of visibility for the driver to see out of this back windshield. So that's good. And I'll kind of sit back here as well because it's a little bit tighter over here. And I'm touching up against the seat now, but again, it's not too bad. This is far more useful than the other 3-row SUVs. So with that, let's go ahead and let's take a look at that trunk space. And there's your HVAC controls up top there. Kind of surprised I didn't put it down here because it's a little bit easier, but whatever. All right, so since we're in the back, I might as well show you this fantastic key fob similar to the Kia Soul and the Kia Forte. So probably didn't focus, but whatever. It's the same key, based off of the Stinger. Literally the highest quality key, exceeding luxury cars, and that's kind of what they're trying to do here, at like a much lower price bracket. So you got to respect Kia for that. So you can open this up with the key fob with the interior button there, and you can also kind of just grab it from here. Kind of opens up. It does open up electronically, so you do have to wait for that, but it's not too bad. Obviously, your space is going to be a little bit more compromised if you have these seats up, the third row up, that is. You do have these little like latches here that you can just pull on, and you can just easily put them down. I will say though, again, this is kind of where I start having an issue with this car. Sometimes when I pull this thing back up, it doesn't like always stay in place. Like it usually has like some play in it usually. This can be a bit cumbersome, not always the easiest thing to put up and down, but I will say this can be forgiven because I like just how easy it is to put down, and it's a legit flat load space. What I cannot forgive though is this thing right here. So you lift this up, you have a phenomenal amount of space down here, and you even have a spare tire. So I absolutely love that. So it makes this a far more practical vehicle. It's almost like a second trunk down there. So I love that. But my biggest problem with this car is definitely like this weird cardboard thing that's like held on with this Velcro. It's just such a fussy thing when I first got the car. Now I kind of like realize like where it's supposed to go in so I can close it properly now. But at first, dude, this thing it would always get stuck up here. It was so annoying. So that was something I had to get used to. Wasn't a huge fan of that. But the great thing is this has so much practicality and useful space. The Palisade is the little bit more luxurious vehicle. So It has like, you know, actual electronic buttons to kind of put all the seats down. You still do have electronic buttons to put down the captain's chairs, because you can kind of just do that and they both fold down and you have an immense amount of space. But again, might not be the most reliable approach because those electric switches may fail in the future. So I do like that for the third row, you kind of physically put them down. So pretty nice. This is overall like way more practicality than what most humans need. If you need anything more than this, go look at a U-Haul. But with that, let's go ahead and let's take a look at the conclusions. So kind of ending this all off here, kind of an overall impressions of this vehicle after spending a few days with it. I think pretty much everybody's going to like it. I mean, that's just kind of common sense. I mean, Kia is similar to what Lexus does, and they just try to make a phenomenal road car, nothing more, nothing less, and they try to make it luxury. Basically, this is, for all intents and purposes, a luxury vehicle. You brand whores may not agree with that, but this is, in a lot of ways, it exceeds a lot of the luxury vehicles. Not only does it drive smooth, ride good, pull off relatively well with the engine that it already has, but got a phenomenal charm that not a lot of other vehicles have been, not a lot of other new cars have been able to pull off. And so, you know, there's a bunch of SUVs out there today, but something about this Telluride, it just stands out somehow. Somehow in this competitive segment, this is special and it's unique. And that's kind of why I love it. I'm not going to dwell on the driving dynamics because pretty much everybody's going to agree with me when they get in it and when they ride it. It's just the perfect daily driver. You have a bunch of space in here. Yeah, some of the practicality can be a little bit cumbersome, but it's got all the features, tech, safety that you would ever need to ask for in a modern day vehicle. And that's, you know, Kia has always been great about giving a lot of what people want in a vehicle. So they listen to people and they create a great product. And it's something that actually a lot of other manufacturers can learn from. You know, what are the negatives? The gas mileage sucks. It's not very fuel efficient at all. Even with that GDI engine, you know, I'd expect a little bit more power and a little bit more fuel efficiency, honestly. Even though the power is more than adequate for the people who are buying this, an engine like that could produce a little bit more. There's a lot of weird piano black plastic material being used in this. I wish they would kind of go in the direction of what Hyundai Santa Fe did and pretty much just got rid of all that stuff. That would be pretty nice to see. Again, some of that putting up and down the seats can be a little bit annoying occasionally, but they made it as stress-free as they possibly could, so I respect that. It's substantial enough where people feel like they're driving a pretty big vehicle, but feels much smaller than it is, so maneuvering it feels great. But also, like another, like my Patreon member mentioned this, is it as big as what people make it seem like? It's not. It's, again, the correct size. Like, you can fit everybody and you can fit their things, but it's like not ridiculous. Like, in no seat setting are you ever going to get like a Maybach levels of, you know, leg room or anything like that. It's just adequate for what it needs to be. And the fact that adults can fit in every row of this speaks volumes. The tech is phenomenal, very ergonomic. I love all the hard touch commands and controls that this vehicle has. So overall, fantastic vehicle. One of the vehicles I've enjoyed the most out of all these press cars is probably going to be this one. I love the stability of it, just the confidence I get driving these Kias. It's just something you have to go and try out for yourself. So if you're in the market for this thing, there's no question, go out and get it. But it's so much demand that they're actually upmarking this thing like it's some kind of a Supra or like a C8 Corvette. So something you got to watch out for. But thank you so much for watching this review. Hope you found value with it. And if you did, consider subscribing since this is the end of the video. Take care and goodbye.